This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast with myself, Adam Strong. And today, you know what? We've got a great guest because it's the second time she's come onto the show. We've collaborated on a million different levels. She's a really good friend of mine, and we've known each other a very, very, very long time. And you know what's really interesting about today? We're going to be talking about a topic or a subject which not enough of us are talking about, especially within our industry, okay? Which is obviously entrepreneurship. So who have we got on today's show, ladies and gents? Well, we have my good friend, Sammy Garrity. Now, you may know her as Sammy Blindell, but she recently got married, of course. So for those that don't know who Sammy is, of course, she's a multi-award winning author and speaker. She's I think she's written 9 best-selling books, to be quite
honest. And now 10.
Oh, now 10, sorry. Be corrected. We know Sammy as the brand builder. That's what kind of like what a stage name would be known as well. And she's also created some amazing courses online digitally, like over 1,000 in excess. You know, anything from free to paid or whatever it is, pay to play, that kind of stuff. There's so many different courses that she's created over her, I suppose, extensive years of experience in entrepreneurship. Interestingly enough, we're going to be talking about something that Sammy did a few years ago, probably about 6 years ago. She actually created a poll of 41,000 people, all right, entrepreneurs more specifically. And the question was, what stops us from succeeding, all right? So there were 3 different options, okay, and which was all around the fear of being visible, branded as being special, or kind of the fear of being too successful, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. That's the context around today's conversation. And so what Sammy and her husband, Greg, by the way, have got a really big mission, by the way. Something which is going to really, she's a great storyteller, by the way, but she's got something which is going to put something into perspective, more importantly. And she's going to be one of her new books, which has just come out, by the way, which is all about 1 year to no fear, basically. And she's going to be talking about how to support entrepreneurs to go from, you know, from a place of kind of where they're at right now and how to overcome mental health within entrepreneurship. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Sammy's personal story. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the, I suppose, miscellaneous, misperceptions around mental health and entrepreneurship, why it's not spoken about. We're also going to be talking about some potential strategies and also some of the people that Sammy's been helping as well along the way. We've all got our own adversities and challenges, and that affects us not just emotionally, but also mentally, spiritually, and financially. It works, it comes around, and it really swings around about. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. For you guys that are listening to us live, use the hashtag live or use the hashtag replay. And if you are listening to this on the podcast, congratulations. Make sure that you check out Sammy's social media links below, of course. Any questions, feel free to reach out to her, of course. She will be in due kind of in contact and in touch. What was I was going to say to you as well? If you are going through mental health issues or whatever it is, remember this podcast is more around kind of sharing stories and adversity challenges, etc. We're not here as counselors. That's not what we're here to do. We're not here as we're not doctors. We're not professionals. If you are going through some massive mental health issues, I would make sure that I would go to your GP or doctor and seek professional help. Okay. That's really super important. And, you know, and Sammy will absolutely agree with me on this as well. A strength of a leader is to ask for help. Okay. Don't feel like you're all alone in this world, because it can feel like that. We've all been there. I've been there. Sammy's done that. Just make sure that you have that at the back of your mind, but also to re-listen to some of the conversations that we could be having together. Anyway, enough chit chat. Sammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Again.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll talk about that. That's another whole debate. Absolutely. Listen, I mean, I think we have such great conversations. I mean, we could speak for hours on the podcast and that kind of stuff. And, and we've been following each other's journey, haven't we, for so many years. And you've got so many great stories, from the time that there's just, you've got such great stories to share with people. And I feel like a lot of your tribe and community, they really resonate with what you're about, because you're not in it for the money. You're in it because you really genuinely like to help people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all about the impact, which is why we've set up the business called the Impact Catalysts.
Oh, yes.
It is all about being the catalyst for change in what you do, but also too many people forget about the result. And actually, that's what you get paid for.
Yes.
Hint. You get
Absolutely
paid for delivering results, whatever industry you're in. So the impact is the result that we are focused on. And we realized that in building How to Build a Brand and the Brand Builders Club and all the things we did around brand, we realized that so much focus was on the brand that people were forgetting about the impact that the brand was there to make. And so there was a lot of masculine energy of, get shizzle done, and not enough around, well, how are we actually measuring the impact that we're making, And so we really have done a big helicopter hat over the business and gone, hang on, this is the area that we really love. That's what we get juiced over, is seeing the results, seeing the ripple effect, seeing the impact in motion. And that's what we're doing now.
It's really interesting as well, because I know that your new husband, Greg, is a hypnotherapist, isn't he? And he's got some great strengths to his bow, but I think you really complement each other really well, because you're the expert brand builder, and it's not his strength, but he really fixes people up here in the mind, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, he works with a lot of people in the public speaking industry. Actually, we have a lot of people that come to me and they say, I really want to build my brand. I want to be a speaker. And I'm like, okay, so tell me about that. Like, what's happening? Why aren't you out there doing it already? Oh, I've got this real fear of speaking and I want to do it, but I don't want to get on stage, or I'm worried. What if everyone gets up and walks out? And so I feel like if I build a brand, less people will do that. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to refer you to him first and then come back to me, because no amount of strategy that you and I can discuss is going to work if you keep creating things and not launching them. And you get to the point where you go, I've got this amazing book. I'm just about to launch my book. Oh my God, what if someone rejects me? What if I get a troll? What if somebody, what if somebody does something that's really public? What if I fail publicly? Oh my God. What if someone asks me a question and I don't feel like I know enough? Oh, but there's so many other people out there. They're way better than me. They've been doing it longer than me. Why should I? And all of a sudden, you've got all these little mind monkeys that are screeching, hanging from the ceiling, and they're all saying, you can't do this. Who are you to do this? Like, out of all the people that are doing it, why you? Who are you? And you just end up with this kind of downward spiral. And this is something we cover in the book, actually. We talk about the 5 cycles of change in the book, because what people do quite a lot is they'll go cycle 1. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail now, but cycle 1, I've got this great idea. And so they go out there and they get really excited about the idea. They don't know what to do yet, but they're really excited about the idea. That's cycle 1 is coming up with the vision for this thing. Cycle 2 is, oh God, this is harder than I thought it'd be. There's a lot more to this than I thought. Okay, well, I'm still really excited about it. So I'm going to push and I'm going to shove and I'm going to strive and I'm going to drive and I'm going to put all my energy into making this work. And you hit cycle 3 where you're just like, why did I start this in the first place? I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can't see where the purpose was at the beginning of this. I just, why did I get into this? And it's at that point that all the monkeys really start chirping, right? And chimping, if that's a word. We just made one up. And then you get to the cycle 4. If you push through cycle 3, you get to cycle 4. It's like, okay, I can start to feel that this is getting somewhere. I start to feel like we're getting traction. Cycle 5 is, yes, I did it. The light, the end of the tunnel. We published, the book is out there. It's changing lives. Quite often what people do, though, is they write it. And it's in the valley of despair of writing or creating or whatever you're doing, where you think this is too hard. Ugh, I'm just going to go back to my job. This is too hard. The universe obviously doesn't want me to have it. God doesn't want me to have it because it should be easier. And we talk ourselves into it. And it's like we then, through fear, hand our responsibility over to God or to the universe or to the thing that is stopping us. Technology just isn't working. I can't get this to work. This company let me down. This blah, blah, blah. And it's all outside of ourselves. And we transfer it and we put it over there. So now that we feel good about ourselves again, because we're at the point of kind of failing, we take that on as an identity. And so as long as we can take it and hand it over to God or to the universe or something else, it's not our identity anymore. It didn't happen because they made it happen. And so we can transfer it. But the problem is that people will keep going through those patterns. The saboteurs are just having a field day. They're having the party of their life because you just keep starting projects and not finishing them. And as soon as they get hard, you start a new one and then that gets hard. And then you go back to cycle 1 again. So you bounce between cycle 1 and cycle 3 until eventually you say, I'm just going to push through this, or I'm going to learn about myself as to why I keep doing this. And, I don't feel like I've got this fear, but maybe there's a little lurker in the label of that fear. And it's that little Lego brick of fear that is holding everything else up in that wall that might be invisible, or that ceiling. We talk about glass ceiling, could be the glass ceiling or whatever you call it. And it could be just that one little Lego brick. And it's just like when you're playing with dominoes when you're a kid and you tap that one and that one just unpacks everything else. Wow, you're just free to go. And the freedom in that is just the liberation, the feeling is just phenomenal. And, and I know for sure how that feels because this book has been like 8 years, 7 years in the making. And I've published 9 other books in the time that I've written this one, because this one not only meant so much, but it's taken that amount of time to get into the research and all the responses that came back. So this, I know the valley of despair, believe me. I went between 3 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 2. I was like a freaking pinball machine. And to actually see it live in people's hands and receiving photos from people with their books and with their dogs holding the book up and cats. And we've had all kinds of cats photos, which is strange, but great. We love them. And I got one this morning. I got a message from someone that said, hey, my client bought the book and they're on the plane reading it now. And they sent me a picture of it. It's just amazing. And that feeling, that's the feeling you've got to hold on to when you're in the valley of despair. You've just got to hold on to the fact that whatever you're doing, it is going to make an impact, but you'll only ever know of around 1% of the impact you'll ever make. So you can't just keep focusing on what's in front of you. Got a client who said yesterday, she started writing blogs a couple of weeks ago. And she said, I've written 3 blogs and I've published 3 blogs now. I'm not getting the response I want from it. I think this isn't working out. And I said, okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to step back from the reality piece, because you're now in stage 2 and 3. You're bouncing between the 2, right? Cycles of change. What I want you to do is now imagine in 6 months from now that you're talking to your dream client, and your dream client goes and checks you out, and they find that you are prolific in this area. You write about it, you eat, live, breathe, sleep, walk, talk. You're on YouTube for that thing. You're everywhere for that thing. You've written a book on that thing. Now you're not seeing that in 6 months' time. But if you can hold on to that vision long enough, you'll get through to cycle 5. And then you'll be like, now I understand why you were saying I should be doing this for my business. So there's this element of rising up to the purpose of the impact you want to make and seeing that impact and feeling it and experiencing it and tasting it and smelling it as vividly as you can. But then we've got to come back to the here and now, because if we stay in the vision, we'd never get anything done. So we need to come back to the here and now and take the actions that are in alignment with the vision that you're moving towards. And you'll be creating impact all along the way. You might not be measuring that impact along the way. You're only measuring the like or the share at the end. So I just say, do it because it's the right thing to do, not for the likes and shares and all of the impact. It can be measured later.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know I want to go on to something which was a really, really interesting piece of research that you did, which I think you said to me was 6-7 years ago, which was around the poll or the questionnaire that you did online, wasn't it?
Yeah, survey.
Survey, that's right. Sorry, and it was all around finding out what holds people back, which is why your book ended up taking so long, right?
There was a lot.
It's a lot.
There was a lot.
So tell us a little bit about that, because tell us a bit about the survey. What was the context? What was the reason why you created the survey? What was the curiosity behind that? And I've got a couple of other sort of curious questions off the back of that.
The number one reason that we wanted to run the survey, this was back in 2016, was because by that point, we were growing How to Build a Brand. We've now merged How to Build a Brand into Impact Catalyst. But at that time, How to Build a Brand was the business. And so we were talking all over the world. We were speaking, we were on documentaries, we were always in the news, constantly PR, loads of media stuff around how to build a brand, on a massive mission to support small entrepreneurs and business owners to get the help that they needed. But if they didn't have the money to afford an agency, we were building them as their own designer, their own marketing director, their own social media manager. So we were giving them all the tools that they would need to be self-supporting and to grow their business, build their brand. And so we said, we're ready to create some kind of membership, but we weren't sure really what we would create it around. And I can't do something if I'm not feeling it. If it isn't feeling right to me, I can't just do it. Everyone's saying you should do a membership. Yeah, membership around what? I don't get it. And
Makes
then so we wanted to find out what were the holdbacks, the setbacks, what were the blocks that were limiting people from getting where they wanted to go. And we were doing it more from a branding and visibility perspective. Like, what's stopping you from getting more visible? What's stopping you from pressing the button on launching your products? What's stopping you from writing that book that you've always wanted to write that's in your heart? What's stopping you from getting out of bed and feeling really buzzing every morning? Why is this feeling like it's a grind? And there was a lot of the term hustle back in 2016. And I hate that word. And so I also wanted to get behind, what does hustle mean to you? What does hard work mean to you? What does money mean to you? What does sales mean to you? So we asked a load of questions to get behind not just what was holding them back, but also the mindset that they were operating from, because you could tell a lot from their answers. And the ultimate reason for it was because we wanted to build a membership that supported them in the areas that they had the biggest holdbacks. And so we reached out to our joint venture partners. We created a very simple survey on SurveyMonkey, and we asked all of our people that we knew to send this out to your network. Would you be willing to send this out to your network of business owners so that we can do this research? And it ended up going out to over 60,000 entrepreneurs and business owners, just through all the lists of everybody that we knew and our own list as well, all our social media channels. Any opportunity we got, we were putting that link everywhere. And we were just expecting that, like, email rates are really small, aren't they? Right. So we were thinking, okay, we might get like 100 responses or 200 responses. That was manageable. We didn't expect over 41,000 responses, hence why it's taken so long to go through it. And what was also really important to me was not just having the body of research, but also being able to work personally with people and test it and experiment the results of that research to find out, well, how is this physically showing up. And so we actually did launch the Brand Builders Club off the back of the results of the research. And so we took the 7 hardest, biggest, massive blocks that they were having in their business, and we built the Brand Builders Club around those 7. So it was the builder system, the brand builder system, and builder was the acronym, and there was a point off of each of those. And so we built this global business based on those 7 things, and we were creating massive results for people, but it was very masculine energy. And I felt that by lockdown, I was really starting to burn out, because we were running 34 events every month all around the world. We were running quarterly live in-person members days, but we were running them in the UK. And they started off as being just a Saturday. Then people were flying in, so then it became a Friday night and a Saturday. And then we said, well, if everyone's staying, then we should do a mastermind while everyone's there. So it became a 3-day thing. So next thing, we're like running it in the UK. Then we're flying out to Holland, doing it in Holland. So then another 3 days in Orlando and Fort Lauderdale, Atlanta, then going to New York and doing it in New York. Started doing it in Brisbane. We were doing it in Johannesburg and Cape Town. We were doing it all over the UK. We had 5 of them we were running in the UK. I mean, it was just mental. By the time lockdown, and I know you knew me at that time, by the time lockdown came, I didn't know, like, we were waking up and Greg was saying to me, where are we today? Because he was just like on this journey with me, making sure that I was eating well and looking after me.
Nice.
But we were always on a plane or a train going somewhere, and we didn't know whether we were coming or going. And it was at that point that we were already questioning, God, like, what would it take? Could we bring this back online again? Because it's almost gone pop to physically. And we
Sure.
were looking at what our options would be. And just at that time, lockdown hit. And so my answer was answered.
There you go.
It was like, here you go. We're just going to shut down, so you can't go anywhere. And we had to bring everything online again. And I totally forgot about the research. I was so focused on pivoting and making sure all our members had everything that they needed, that I totally forgot about everything that I'd done. And I put myself totally onto them. We launched the Law of Brand Attraction 1 and 2. We got our members out there. We featured loads of stuff. Just did so many things. And then it was last Christmas when, I feel like a burst of song coming on there. Anyway, last Christmas, Greg and I were sitting down and we were kind of looking back over the year and talking and saying, isn't it interesting how so many of our members now are going to Greg to be kind of, not fixed, but get them over the line? Isn't it interesting that so many people are coming to him and saying, oh, I'm in that stage that Sammy talks about, and I just don't seem to be able to get myself out of it. I don't want to go back to work, but I'm not earning enough money. I've got to make this work. So Greg started seeing a load of our members and like getting them over the line and working with them, doing hypnosis and just shifting them enormously. He then started creating hypnosis audios for them to listen to in the morning and at night when they were going to bed. And we saw this huge spike in activity and productivity and results coming from, and we were like, okay, this is really interesting. We never thought of combining our 2 things together. And so that's what we did. And we said, well, what if they could go for a whole year without, if fear wasn't an option and they just were infinite in their potential and they thought of themselves that way, and we removed the blocks for everyone that's in that membership, I wonder what would happen to the results then. And I happened to be swimming as I was thinking about this. I was percolating. I have to be moving when I'm percolating. I'm swimming, and this thing suddenly comes to me: 1 year, no fear. 1 year, 1 year, no fear. I was up out of that bloody pool as fast as I was like, I've got to write this down while I remember it. And that's where 1 year, no fear came from. And then we sat down and went, hang on, this is a really good idea. What should we bring into this? Like, out of all the things that we've done and all the programs and everything, what should we do? And we went, we got all that research. Why don't we go back to the research and work it, like what's underpinning this stuff? Because all we did really with that research was say, oh, well, here's where all the blockers are. Let's just create a program that solves this problem. The problem was we were solving the problem for them. They weren't solving the problem. We were like band-aiding the problem by saying, well, do this, do this, do this. They weren't getting over the fear. They were just taking action and they're never getting over the fear. And so that was still there. So we said, okay, we need to go back to the research. We've got to knock these skittles down, because then there won't be any fear, and then there won't be any foot on the brake and the accelerator. And like, everyone's feeling sick and overwhelmed because they're constantly bunny hopping their way to success. It doesn't mean they're not going to get to where they want to go successfully. It just means it's going to be a bloody much harder journey than it needs to be. And so we then just looked back over all the research and said, you know what? All of these things come into 12 buckets. We started to see this theme that was appearing, and we were like, yep, that's in that, that's in that, that's in that, yep. And it all came down to 12 fears. And they're the 12 fears that we've then spent the last year running an experiment with our members that said, yeah, we'll do it. The paid experiments, they've paid us to walk them through this whole process over the last year. And as a result of that research, that's where this book has come from. And we've been able to write a book that enables the reader to work out where is it in the fear that is holding them back? Because it might not be the fear, but there will be a tiny little Lego brick or a domino that they'll find in there, and they'll go, so they'll be, scoring themselves out of 5 or 10, and they'll get, right the way down. They might be a 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 0, 0, and then a 5. There it is. And there it is. It's been hidden in plain sight all along. And so we do that for the 12 different fears. And this is the first book, which is the overview of how to find out where is this sticking point, where's the setback, where's the holdback for you personally. And then over the next 12 months, can't believe we're committed to this, but we're all in. We are launching one book a month that then dives into one of the fears. So we couldn't fit it all in here. And so we've now got one book that covers each of the fears. So the first one is the fear of change, because quite often people don't even realize they have it. They call it a fear of success. That's how they brand it. But ultimately, the fear of change is what's really underpinning that. And it works very well with the fear of success. They're lovely little twinnies, those ones. So we're starting there. So we dive into each of the fears and we give a 30-day challenge with instructions and a journal to complete that 30-day challenge. And then the next month, we then focus on the next fear with another 30-day challenge. And so we're doing that to just massively increase the confidence of entrepreneurs and business owners that they can do this, they will do this, they are doing this, and that what they're doing and the impact that they're making could be so much more if they took their foot off the brake. And that's our dream. Our goal is, if entrepreneurs, like, I've heard so many dreams and so many amazing business ideas that the world isn't even experiencing right now because they lost their confidence, or they never pushed the button and they started something else before that thing actually had a chance to live. And imagine what the world would be like if all of those brilliant world-changing ideas were actioned. I want to see them actioned. And so that's our intention and our dream, is that more people do that. And through doing that, ultimately the world will become a better place, because everybody's out there focused so much on the impact that they're making that they forget that the fear is there.
Yeah, love that. Some good stuff, some good stuff. Something that came off the back of your conversation, actually, and one of the fears, it was, you were talking about that there are 12 fears, and one of the fears, I believe, that's in the book, which is around the fear of becoming visible, right? So being visible out in the marketplace, whatever that looks like. For a lot of listeners and a lot of entrepreneurs, being visible can somewhat seem a little bit daunting on us, right? Being kind of seen in the limelight, if you like. Can you give us some context? Why is being visible such a daunting task for a lot of entrepreneurs, and what sort of are the mental health repercussions off of the back of that? What are they thinking? Why is it that they kind of stay in the dark, right, where they know that they should go into the light, right? Should we say? I would just use two different contexts, if you like. But do you know what I mean? I'm sure you've seen this, Sammy, where you either before you've taken on a client or one of your clients, where you've worked with them, and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you hiding in the shadows? Right? You're an absolute genius, right? Or you've got this amazing skill set. What the WTF are you doing? I want to bang your head against the wall. Right. I just,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure you've had it, right? What's your
too
thoughts?
many times. What's interesting about that is no, the fear of being visible is not in the book. And the reason it's not in the book is because people label it as the fear of being, I'm so scared of being visible. I've got a fear of being visible. It's not the fear of being visible. It's the meaning you attach to the fear of being visible. And what's underneath that fear, that's what's in the book. It's
Got it.
the foundation that's in the book. So what we've found is that a fear of being visible is always usually attached to a fear of judgment, a fear of
Mm.
failure, a
Yep.
fear of success. Often,
Yep.
because they're like, but if I'm visible, then people will see me as successful. Then I've got to stay there. How do I keep up with that? What if I create something and it's amazing, and then I can't? What if I can't deliver on my promise? And right, and so also a fear of abandonment.
Yep.
People fear if I'm visible and I talk about what's really in my heart, what will people think of me? What if they leave? What if half of my subscribers go because I start talking about this, which I really care about, but they know me for this. I had one client who is a sound healer and amazing, absolutely amazing sound healer. I've had work done with her. She's incredible. And when she came to work with me all these years ago, and I remember she was doing a lot of public speaking and vocal confidence coaching with lawyers and barristers and the corporate world. But what she really wanted to do was what she called her woo. She wanted to bring her woo out there. She wanted to support many more people, not just professionals. But she was hard. She was like really struggling. She was finding it really hard but what if I come out? What if I come out and I'm visible for this? They'll all abandon me ultimately is what it comes down to. And a lot of
Sure.
people as well, I hear a lot. But if I start talking about what I really care about, or if I start talking about my business, then all my family and friends, they'll reject me. So the fear of rejection is
Yep.
enormous with
Huge.
a fear of visibility, a fear of being seen. So in that case, you've got a whole stack of dynamos.
Yep.
Dynamos, I call them dynamos,
Dynamos.
dominoes. You become a dynamo
I
when
like
you
that dynamo.
so yeah, but that in that case you've got all of these, and when we've got a 3-day challenge that we run every 3 months called 1 Year No Fear. We've got one coming up in December next week.
Yep.
And when people go through that and we do these tests and we do them live, so they're hearing other people share their stories, there's so much more transformation that happens in those moments because we had people that we said at the beginning, right, out of all these 12 fears, which ones do you think are showing up for you? And so they all measured themselves at the beginning. At the end, we asked the same question, and all of them were like, we didn't realize what this was actually doing and how much this is holding us back. And we didn't know what to do. Well, of course, we don't just talk about what to do. We talk about, well, here's how you can change this. Here's what you can do. And what we've done in each of the books is we've really dived deep in a way we couldn't in the big overview. This is already almost 300 pages. We couldn't fit all of the 12 fears deep dive in here as well. That's
Right.
why we've got the book for each of the fears coming out each month. But in each of the books that are coming out each month, that's where we've really dived in deep. And we've looked at it from two perspectives because this particular series is for small business owners. But we are bringing out 1 Year No Fear. We've got a client who has a database of like 60,000 nurses. And she said, my nurses need this, but they're not business owners. Can you rewrite it for them? Yes. So, we're already thinking about how we can be publishing for other markets to support them as well through this. Because she said, I've got all these women that are waiting to go through our process, but they're scared to say yes. She said, imagine she'd have an extra 60,000 clients if she didn't have these people just like stuck in her database that are not going for it because of fear. Anyway, so what we've done, because this is more aimed at business owners and is totally aimed at business owners and entrepreneurs for this series.
Yes.
We've looked at it from two angles. So we've looked at the fear both from your perspective. How is this showing up for you? How is this stopping you? How is this stopping other people like you so you can see through their story Okay, I can filter some of those things. Yeah, that's showing up for me. So we tell stories, we share case studies. We're very vulnerable also in the things that have happened to us to help people get over the line of, right, okay, so I see where the sticking points are. But what we've also done is looked at it from the view of the client. So
Mhm.
here's how this is showing up. Here's why you're not getting the sales you want. Here's why they're saying no. Here's why it's not happening faster. Here's how fear of change, fear of commitment, fear of growth. Here's how all these fears are showing up for them, which
Mm.
has been enormous for our clients because we've been able to say, well, look, if this fear is showing up for them, here's how you can get through it. Here's what you can do as a small business owner to make sure that if that fear starts chimping away at them, that's gonna be a new term, chimping. I hope it doesn't mean anything awful.
Love it.
If it starts, at them, then you're already going to have handled that objection because you've seen it coming and you understand not only how this is impacting you and your sales because of how you're showing up or not, but it's also impacting how they're buying from you. And because I've got all of the marketing experience and buying behavior and buyer psychology and all of that, I've brought that side to it, and Greg's brought the human performance side to it, as
Love it.
well as the data and the testing of the experiment. So this has really been a labor of love. It has been our life, for a long time, but more so this last year. We've had to stop doing, we had podcasts that we launched. We were doing lots of visibility stuff, and we just had to pull back from all of that while we did this because we couldn't keep up at the same pace visibly
Mm.
while you're, tactically, strategically doing that, and then you're writing something that is going to be your life's best work, that's going to be the brand upon which you build yourself, and
Mm.
that's where we've been. So I'm
Very
coming
interesting.
out.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
I feel like
It's
I'm
interest
out now.
it's interesting because obviously, I mean, I known you for all about the pub what do you call it, branding, right? Personal branding and things like that. So I wanted to kind of it's interesting you were talking about like there's normally a fear attached to other fears, which is it's kind of like a domino effect, which I absolutely agree with you, by the way. But I want to go back to something which we're always told as entrepreneurs, right? Create content, get visible, get out there, get yourself. Do you know what I mean? So, like, if you're not out there, right,
Yeah.
no one's going to know you, right? And no one does business with a nobody. Let's just face it, right? Okay. So,
Yep.
you've got that kind of like, I suppose, call it pressure, right? You create this pressure, or, you kind of like, you kind of like have two different types of entrepreneurs. You have an entrepreneur which doesn't create any content and that just, do you know what I mean? Like you have that type of content, right? And then you have the other type of entrepreneur that creates so much content, right, that they just don't know what to do with all the content. And because they feel obliged that if they don't show up on the online space and become visible and get yourself out there and whatever it is,
Yeah.
they're doing a disservice to their audience. Do you know what I mean, Sammy?
I do.
And so I suppose my next question was all around kind of like from your perspective, right? You know, how does the pressure of maintaining like that kind of like not just visibility, but that kind of like showing up on to people, and how does it contribute to stress and anxiety amongst entrepreneurs? Any
Well,
thoughts?
it's incredibly stressful because I would say that more entrepreneurs and change makers express this label
Yeah.
of imposter syndrome. So, imposter syndrome, compare and despair, comparisonitis. That's three of the ways that I've heard it used the most. And there's even coaches out there that focus on imposter syndrome because it is such a big label that, people say, well, I've got imposter syndrome, and then they label themselves with that. And the challenge with imposter syndrome is that that's also packed by a number of these fears. But worse than that, that is one that can really play hell with your mental health because you're then looking at everybody else, and you're measuring your value and your identity on the gap between what you're doing and what they're doing. And 9 times out of 10, you're actually better than them in the thing that they're doing. And you're probably completely different as well. Only by that point, you've taken on that identity, and that identity eats away at you. And what I tend to find is that entrepreneurs that have this syndrome, they tend to be in grief all of the time. They're operating from a place of grief because they're grieving over what they can't do, grieving over what they haven't got, grieving over what they don't feel able or capable to do. Oh, they're so visible because they've got more marketing than me. That they hit number one with their thing because they've got a bigger list, and they make all of these reasons up. And the problem is that those reasons get to the point where, like a ship only sinks because it lets it in, right? Because it let the the water, there's an ability for that water to get in, and as soon as you start letting that leak in, then it will sink you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that did happen to one of the people that were coming to our events, and it was very sad. And we've dedicated the book to him. And
Mm.
he came to one of our events having been told, he had this big idea. He was working in a job at that time, a
Mm.
very good, secure job. He
Yeah.
had this idea. He took it to this design and marketing agency, and they said, yeah, like pay us this 20,000 something dollars, and we'll create the branding, and we'll help you with the idea, and we'll create the website, and we'll do the marketing for you. And you can just be out there doing your thing. And so he left his really good job. He left it all, put all of his savings into it, remortgaged his home. And 2 years later, he still didn't have anything to show for it, by which time he was just like, he was in a hell of a state. Now, we didn't know him at that time.
Mm.
So that previous 2 years, we didn't know the history of it until
Right.
afterwards, unfortunately. But he came to one of our events in Canada, and he was really proactive, and he was sharing his idea. And I've got loads of pictures of him at the day, and a lot of the pictures of the event are him putting his hand up, him sharing what he's doing. And he just has this excitement, this childlike excitement about him. And I thought, oh, he's going to be brilliant. He's totally going to crush it. Like he's got everything that it takes to do this. And then at the end, he came up to me and pulled me to one side, and he said, I didn't pay for my ticket to come here. My ticket was paid for me. I need this, but I can't afford to do the next thing. I can't afford to invest in your program. Have you got anything at all that you can tell me that I can go away and start, and that I can go and start making the money so that I can afford to do the thing with you that I need to do? Because it's not happening with this company I've invested in. I've tried to get my money back. They're not giving my money back, and there was all this stuff. And so I said to him, look, we only have this program. So this was going back to 2016. And we
Mm.
had one big program. That was all we were selling. We didn't have any other resources. We didn't even have any lead magnets or anything. It was all about the program. We only had the book, How to Build a Brand.
Got it.
And so I said to him, look, all I can do is say, like, go and work through the book and come back in 3 months' time. I haven't got anything smaller for you, but I promise you I will think about it. While we're traveling, we're on a big
Yeah.
tour. I'll think
Yeah.
about it, and I'll create something for you. But just bear with me because we're very, very busy at the moment. And he said, okay. And he went away. And at first I was hearing from him a lot. Oh, I've had this idea. And he was messaging me on Facebook. And then that stopped. It just all of a sudden stopped. And we were right in the middle of a speaking tour and everything. And I was just thinking to myself, well, I wonder what's happened to, like, where is he? I was really enjoying hearing his updates of what progress he was making as he was going through the book.
Mhm.
And about 2 weeks later, I still hadn't heard anything. And my ambassador in Canada, who was building the club out there,
Mm.
we had a call, and he went, oh my God, I have to tell you some really bad news. And I said, what? And he said, I'll say Sean. We've called him Sean in the book to protect his name. But he said,
Yeah.
"No, he's taken his own life." And I was like, he's what? He said, he's taken his own life. It just got too much for him. And
Wow.
the pressure on him, and the stress on him, and the overwhelming financial commitments that he'd made that he couldn't commit to anymore. He felt like he was letting his family down. He'd told everybody that he was going to make this successful, whilst everyone was telling him, why are you doing that? That's going to fail. He was pushing against it. No, it's going to work. I know it's going to work. It's going to work. And eventually he let it in. and he let it in to the point of the worst case scenario. And in that moment, I just thought, what am I doing? I know so many things that I can help people. Why did I hold back? Why didn't I just help him? Why didn't I create a small program? I could have helped him off. Like, why? And it was like, I was just too busy making money, selling a big program to lots of business owners around the world. And what I didn't take into consideration was there are people that really need help, and they're working alone. They're working in isolation. And even when they're surrounded by people, if those people don't buy into or believe in the idea, then they might as well be in a freaking gladiator ring surrounded by tigers, right? And everybody wants a piece of them, and everybody wants to know how you're getting on with that idea. And yet they're failing and retreating and just being torn apart by the people around them. Not everybody has a support network around them as they go through a process like this. And unfortunately, he didn't. And I just, in that moment, just thought, what can I do? And if I can, then surely I must. So since 2016, in Sean's memory, we've delivered over 1,000 mini courses, masterclasses, programs, tools, resources, books, cheat sheets, downloads, like everything we can do to support people to get over themselves or get over what other people are saying to them, and providing a masterminding platform where people can just tune in and they can get the help that they need, and they never ever feel alone. And our philosophy as the mastermind that we run is called Over the Line, because you're getting over the line, and you get over that line, then you need to get over another line, and then another line. And so our members can tune in, and we're very big on mental health. The whole strap line behind what we have is nobody gets left behind. And Sean is a big part of that. So really his legacy lives on, but hopefully somewhere he knows that. So this book is
Absolutely.
dedicated to him. And actually it's because of him that so many people have received the impact that we have in our hearts, and we've got a long way to go yet.
I love that. Such a great story. And I know every time you probably tell that story, you know, it will stay with you for the rest of your life, because obviously you probably feel like there's
Mm.
an act of responsibility on your part, but also, I get it. It's kind of, but you're doing everything in your power now to, you know, to, yeah, okay, we can't jump in a time machine and rewind the time, even if we could, right? Would you? I guess is the question. Would you?
That's such a good question. I was just thinking that as you were saying it. Um, yes, because I'd love for him to still be with us and to be doing this. No, because if it hadn't have been for that, then we wouldn't have been able to impact on all the people that we have now. So I
Mm.
suppose, that's so hard. That's such a hard question, because it's like one life or a million lives.
Yeah, it's a tough
And
one.
legacy. I don't know. And I suppose, I mean, actually, all of us entrepreneurs, when you care about something and you want to make an impact, you're dedicating your life to that. For every
Of
day,
course.
you're dedicating your life to the mission for which you feel you were born to serve, or the purpose that you're working towards. We're giving
Mm,
our lives for that.
mm,
Um, so to a certain degree, we're all doing that, aren't we?
mm,
But
mm,
it's just, where if you're doing it and you haven't got the support around you that you need,
mm.
and you're the one that believes in your idea, and you've got loads of people around you that are just nagging at you, when are you going to make the money? When's the money coming in? I've had there's one lady in particular who's now gone on to build a global movement. I remember at the beginning, she came on one of my retreats, and she came on the retreat as a coach that wanted to grow her coaching practice. And by the time she left 5 days later, she was building this global movement, and all these, millions of women would be impacted by it. And she went out really excited, and we were all like, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. And then she went home to her husband, and he did not support it at all. He was like, "You can't do that. Where's the money going to come from?" And it was all about the money. And so there was us, like, every day packing her parachute every day while he was at work, helping her to make progress with it. And then he was coming home from work and just like, and so it was really hard. This mental health battle. She was really it was a war. It literally was a war, until the night that she launched her first book, and all these women came to support who she'd helped, who she'd supported, and he got to witness the change that she was making, because he wasn't
Wow.
seeing that. All he was seeing was she was working all these hours and
Yeah.
not making any money. Well, all of a sudden she launches, she's making money. She's now it was all it was long game, like we were talking about with the blogs. It was long game. She had to
Yeah.
get through that. Only he was part of the valley of despair, and that is really hard when it's not just you like having to believe in your idea. It's now you're fighting for your idea. You're not just being the champion of it, you're actually fighting the idea. And
Mm.
I'm very lucky that I'm married to an amazing man who supports my idea, and he stopped everything to help me with my idea. My first husband gave me an ultimatum that was him or the business, and that's how the relationship was just destroyed, because he saw the business as competition as opposed to she's really in flow. She's on her mission. She needs to go out there, like,
Mm.
that the greatness is
Crazy.
going to come from this. And so I know what it's like to have not just the internal saboteur, but the physical saboteur, like in your face,
Mm.
that's
Mm.
stopping you as much as they can. And so, we've been through that. And with what Greg's been through, I mean, hopefully you'll interview Greg and he can tell his story, but he's been through a lot, way more than I have. And you think, how is this man still standing after what he's been through?
Yeah.
And so we both, when we're working with our clients, when we're running our masterminds, we're not
Mm.
running it from a place of here we are and here you are. It's like your business and my business. Here's how I would do it all again. If I could do it again,
Mm.
here's how I would do it. Here's how
Mm.
much faster you could do it than we ever
Mm.
took, because we've burned the midnight oil, we've done the
Love
hard
it.
yards, we've
Yeah.
failed, we've effed up big time. We've lost businesses, we've grown businesses, we've lost
Yeah.
everything, we've built up from nothing. We've been the phoenix, we've also been like, where what do
Ran
we
the
do?
sewer.
Where do we
Yeah,
go with
totally.
this? And
Yeah.
we've supported over 70,000
Mm.
entrepreneurs now to go through a process that really grows them. And we've learned a thing or three along the way, that we believe that this book can make impact. And if somebody is sitting out there struggling, or they haven't got the support around them, or they've been questioning their idea, or even questioning themselves, and then taking that identity on, then I just want you to know that you make a difference and you matter, and that you need to keep going. If you believe in it, and if you know that that's going to change lives, then stop thinking about it. Just start doing it. Because that's the only
Love it.
real measurement of whether it's going to work or not, isn't it?
Absolutely. Experimentation, ladies and gents, experimentation. So, listen, this has been a great conversation. I mean, me and Sammy could talk pretty much all day,
And
but we
do.
don't have all day, and we could do. Well, we absolutely do. But listen, this has been absolutely a great conversation. And I hope that for you guys that are listening in, that the penny is dropping with at least some of the conversation that me and Sammy are having, because Sammy speaks from real life experience,
Mm.
right? Including her, including me. We've all gone through our adversities and the impacts it has on us emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, whatever,
Yeah.
right? We're all human at the end of the day. And I loved what you said at the end as well, Sammy, which was the fact it was a great summary just towards the end of today's conversation, which is the people that are listening in is that you matter. What
Mm.
you're doing is a great thing, right? Because you have to have a tribe of people that believe in what you believe in. And, Sammy has given us some great examples of maybe our close family or even our husbands or partners, but may not support um, support your idea or business or whatever it is. And Sammy is one of those as real life examples, which is given, which I'm absolutely grateful for. Grateful for our friendship, of course, and we're both big fans of each other, and I think we've all gone. Me and Sammy were the types of people that will, if something is, if there's a bee on our bonnet or something's on our mind, we'll jump on the phone to each other and we'll talk. Because that's what we do, don't we, Sammy?
Yeah, yeah. And you need that. You just
Yeah,
you absolutely need that. And we're really lucky that we have that. But what about
yeah,
all the people out there that don't realize that they do? And they
absolutely.
don't realize, they don't know what a mastermind is, or they don't know
Oh,
how do I brainstorm with other people? How do I, like, where do I go to get that?
yeah.
Well, now
So
they know.
They know. But also for you guys as well, you know, it's important as well just to kind of be surrounded with people that uplift you, but also to have what we call a board of trusted advisors, the people that you can reach out to, that you can rely on, and things like that. So people that support you as a person and also align to your values, because that's really important as well. But the other thing I was going to say to you is make sure you check out Sammy's new book, Sammy and Greg's new book, 1 Year No Fear. Okay, there it is. For you guys that are seeing the video, of course. So make sure you check that out on all good bookstores around the world. Sammy, this has been a great conversation. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for bringing this conversation, because everyone's talking about success all the time. No one's really focusing on, well, what happens when it's not successful?